Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Dawn Wiggins, licensed marriage and family therapist, here with Dagmar Gattell, SEO expert extraordinaire. And today's topic is the 3-step process to forgiveness. And I'm really excited to discuss the topic of forgiveness. It was something that I had to learn before I could teach it for sure. And I cannot wait to talk with you all about it today. I'm going to give Dagmar a moment to introduce herself, and welcome to everyone.
Yeah, sure. I'm Dagmar Gattell, and Dawn is my friend, and I do that together with Dawn because just from my background, I know how important visibility is and how important it is that you can share your message with the world, because if not, there's no way how you can make an impact or change anything. So what I do, I use my knowledge and my experience to help Dawn to create a bigger global reach. So really make a change and make a difference in many people's lives. So thank you for having me and allowing me to be here and help you with the technical part of this club show.
I'm so grateful because it's not my area of expertise. That drags me along learning. Anyway. Okay, so today is exciting. 3 steps to forgiveness. I do not mean to oversimplify it because it's not just as simple as taking 3 steps, but I do want to outline the 3 major steps that are really required in an effort to be able to forgive first yourself and then other people, or as we were kind of chatting earlier off the record, forgiving situations that happen, whether it's in the world or in your home, in your family, at work, whatever it is. You can apply these concepts to any circumstance, truly, truly.
So it happens everywhere, right? Like you can be upset about the car in front of you, and you can be upset about everything. So it's not really, it's really, I believe it's really what's in us, right?
Yes, it is. And so you're saying we could be upset about everything. And that is the reality of when we are stuck in non-forgiveness, our natural reaction tends to be anger, blame, hostility, negativity. And so whether we're having a hard time forgiving ourselves or forgiving someone else, we're more likely to contribute negativity, hurt, blame, painful things to our relationships, to our own thought process, and to the world around us. And so that's really the biggest reason that forgiveness is so important. One of the misnomers that I deal with a lot with my clients is that when they're really, really working on forgiving someone, they struggle with the concept that forgiving someone gives them a pass, or that means that they're condoning somebody else's behavior. And that is absolutely not the case. Forgiveness does not mean in any way that you necessarily agree with what someone else said or did, or that you like it. But it is coming to a place of peace and acceptance about something about yourself or what somebody else did, so that you no longer have that internal conflict, and that you can embrace peace inside of yourself. And that's really the purpose of forgiveness, is so that we can release ourselves from the burden and the pain of hanging on to that kind of hurt. So the first step to forgiveness is accepting pain. And what I mean by accepting the pain is not arguing with reality. So if we've been hurt by something, whether it's something that we've done to ourselves or that we perceive that someone else has done, we often say what someone did to me, although people don't do things to us. People just make choices and we react or are affected by their choices, but that doesn't mean that they did them to us. The first step is really to have acceptance of it, instead of saying things like, they shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have done that, or they should do something different. This is unacceptable behavior. The more we think and say those types of thoughts, the more we are reinforcing a disbelief about what actually happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, Dawn, if you see that we have a great chat going on here, and Roland, I don't know if you want to come in and join us. You're more than welcome. Roland he tags it acceptance, understanding the humanness of any relationship without any questions. And then Daniel, he has a question. You posted the question. If you want to read it, yes, and then give him an answer.
Daniel, you're asking, what if they insist on their situation that's causing the upsetness? Like they refuse to acknowledge that what they're doing is causing pain. I think that's what you're asking, is if the other party refuses to acknowledge or apologize or to work with you. The short answer is yes. The goal would be to just forgive them. And I don't mean just as though it's as easy as saying just do it. It really is a process. And you get to choose during that process whether you want to stay in relationship with that person or not. You know, it may be difficult to stay in a relationship with someone who's not willing to accept responsibility for their part. And that's where we can become empowered to make really important choices for ourselves about the kind of relationships we want to be in or a part of.
You know what helps me? It's a lot of times what I realized for myself, I take things personal, and that makes me upset. Mm-hmm. So more I try not to take things personal, or so more I don't assume what they mean when they say something, so less upset I got, and so less angry I'm about something. And so it's easier to forgive without a question. And for sure, like all the books you recommend reading on your website, and one of the books I read is The 4 Agreements, and it made a huge impact for me, and it for sure was very helpful to let it go, because if I like to overanalyze stuff, so more you analyze it, so worse it gets. I mean, so more you think you know the reality, which oftentimes you don't.
Absolutely.
You don't know the
and I think we're getting into like a deeper spiritual concept here. The 4 Agreements is a book that I love and I recommend often to my clients. Not taking things personally, it takes a stretch. Takes us outside of our comfort zone to learn how to not take things personally. And that means, kind of referencing back to what I said, that people don't do things to us. They just make their own choices. And really accepting the fact that taking things personally, like you said, causes more rehearsal and negativity. There's, a lot of really great Buddhist concepts, and Pema Chodron, she talks about, making a different choice and not getting hooked at the yes, but. And that's what we're talking about, is the yes, but. I want to forgive them. I want to improve my life, but they're still doing something hurtful to me.
There's always a but.
So if we can release the but, then there's, less pain, and yes, our own anger becomes less prominent. It's a lot easier to work through painful feelings like anger or hurt or sadness.
Yeah. I love the next, Daniel, thank you so much for your questions. I love the next question.
Okay, is accepting the pain a negative part? Accepting the pain. Accepting the pain is simply moving into reality. It can be challenging because it's not something we're used to doing. We tend to have a set of like mental guidelines that say things should happen a certain way, and when they fall outside of that, we have a difficult time just accepting it. So it's not a negative part, it's a very positive part. It reduces internal conflict for ourselves. So it's accepting reality, it's letting go of the yes, but it's letting go of the shoulds, it should be. And when we're in relationships, most people, when we stop using words like should and telling people how they should act, they actually become more likely to acknowledge their part, because it becomes a less combative exchange. So accepting the pain that was caused, whatever it was, typically allows the other person or party, even ourselves, to become less resistant to change.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the second step to forgiveness, once we have gone through that stretch of learning how to accept that the pain is become a part of our story, a part of our life. It doesn't have to be something that hurts all the time, but once we've moved through that part of the process, then what we want to do is find purpose in the pain. And in my life, this has become a really important step. And that's because I've dealt with pain emotionally and physically that has been really, really, really impactful. From childhood through to today, whether it's been an emotional circumstance or a literal physical pain, because I have a chronic diagnosis that causes really, really, really intense pain. I have really, really learned that finding purpose to that pain is key to forgiving first myself and then other people. And I posted something today on all of my social media sites about mistakes, right? So we often talk about making mistakes in life, and we try to reframe those, that they weren't really mistakes, or that they had a purpose. And that's in essence what I'm talking about. If I hadn't walked the path of making the mistakes, and I use, those quotes because they're not really mistakes if I can find purpose in them. If I hadn't walked that path of making those mistakes, I wouldn't have the compassion for people the way that I do. I wouldn't have my family, meaning my husband, my daughter. I wouldn't have the self-worth that I do today. I wouldn't have learned this process of forgiveness. So I wouldn't have learned to turn inward instead of constantly looking for something to blame. The pain is really where I have grown the most, and that has been a conscious choice. And so that's why I'm trying to teach you today, if you can consciously choose to find purpose in the pain, those are the points where you will grow the most in your life, regardless of whether it's about emotional pain, physical pain, whether it's in a relationship or in your career. If you choose to face that pain and understand that it's you in the pain, and if you can breathe through it and you can lean into it and find the purpose behind it, and first believe that there's a purpose behind it, and then find that purpose, it will be a lot easier to forgive the pain that you're experiencing.
Yeah. I love that. I hear myself. Did you change something in audio?
No.
We have a new question also.
What if a partner replies in arrogance and refuses to apologize? That happens all the time, every day, to me, to you, to all of us, whether it's a global issue or it's the most intimate of relationships. And the biggest thing, the biggest concept that I can offer you about this is that the forgiveness is about focusing on myself, not on what somebody else is doing. So this 3-step process of forgiveness is really a 3-step process where I must completely turn inward and focus on my own process and let go of what the other person thinks, feels, or believes. And that person may come along eventually, and they may not. There are 0 guarantees in life, they say, other than death and taxes. But and that's vulnerability. Brene Brown, I always used to say, she's who I want to be when I grow up, until I started to learn that I'm who I want to be when I grow up. But Brene Brown, she talks about embracing vulnerability and understanding that from a place of vulnerability and taking risks where there's no guarantees, that's the only way that we can truly experience all of our emotions: joy, love, acceptance, peace. Of course, vulnerability can lead to painful emotions also, because the definition of vulnerability is exposing yourself to being hurt. However, that kind of vulnerability is the way that we create intimacy and connection in our relationships. So the more that we can take that risk and let go of pointing the finger or focusing on somebody else, the more likely we are to create connection. It may take a long time, may happen quickly. But it's more about my process and my learning and trying to change.
Absolutely. That sounds, Daniel just let me know that my voice caused some technical issues, but I think they are fine now. What you just said, I love it, because what I realized in my life, and just for our audience who's listening live, right? So Dawn is a psychotherapist in Boca Raton. So she works with her clients, experiences from her clients, from her own life, but also in her business. And that's really what I love about her, because it's really walking the walk, talking the talk. What you learn, you execute, you see how it's working out, and you adapt to it. And it's not just something you teach or something you only live. So it's really this beautiful combination. But what I wanted to say is it's really stopping to react and starting to act, right?
Yeah, what you said is absolutely wonderful. Acting instead of reacting. Typically, I'm known to say responding instead of reacting, but the message is absolutely the same. And it's about mindfulness, thoughtfully and purposefully taking your next steps, and which is an empowering way to live life, doing it in a way where we are making choices, recognizing that we have choices. And I think one of our viewers mentioned earlier the idea of victim. When we make empowered choices, we are no longer on the victim triangle or the drama triangle. We're taking responsibility. We're making empowered choices, which is the fastest path to self-love, to forgiving other people. And let me add to that, attracting like-minded people to ourselves. And that's part of this. The more that we can forgive others and forgive ourselves, the more we're going to have open hearts and be loving and attract other loving, open-hearted people to us. So that we may be used to being in conflict with other people who don't practice humility or don't know how to apologize. But the more that we practice humility and learning how to apologize to ourselves and to others, the more that we're going to be attracted to and attract the same types of people.
And oftentimes, I just read Daniel's question again with the pattern reply in arrogance and refusal to apologize, right? The thing is, do we need it for us as a person that somebody apologizes, or can we just stay in our truth and know we said it with love? And if they want to create their own reality, then we can never change that. Do you mean? So as long as we're waiting for somebody to apologize, we make our emotions depending on somebody else. That's at least what I learned.
That is absolutely it. That you're talking about true releasing codependency, the idea that I'm taking responsibility for my feelings and I'm not going to make my well-being reliant on how somebody else is thinking, feeling, acting, or behaving. And this is much easier said than done, and it takes daily practice and reminding. You know, I mentioned Pimit Chadron earlier, and I'm taking one of her online courses right now, and it's because I do walk the walk and not just talk the talk, but she's helping me with that daily reminder about taking responsibility for my feelings and not making my well-being somebody else's. So there's a lot of different types of relationships. It's hard to say, like, I saw somebody mention something about the relationship continuing or not. You know, each of us has to make that choice for ourselves. Now, if we're talking about an intimate relationship, like a marriage, or, you know, the mother or father of our children, or a parent, or a spouse, whoever that is, you know, ideally we would be willing to kind of commit through the difficulty, even if they are responding in arrogance. You know, not everybody is meant to stay all the time in every relationship, and you have to kind of assess for yourself whether or not it's the best thing for you. But again, for the purpose of this chat, it's about learning how to turn our focus inward for our own growth and to benefit from releasing the pain as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just saw that Daniel, you posted another question. Daniel, you were missing the capital Q, so I will read it for Dawn just in a second. And I think what you just said, Dawn, if I may say that, right? I'm an animal lover. I love animals. And animal abuse is very hard for me, but it's still my choice if I want to focus on hating the people who are abusing animals, or focusing on, okay, how can I make a change? What is the solution here, right? What is the results I'm looking for? If I believe if I make a conscious choice then I can overcome this pain, feeling this pain that people abusing animals, to focusing on there's so much good I can do. So what do I do with my energy? And Roland, thank you so much. Roland, you have to read all the comments, and if you can, Don, please read them out, because his response is really great. So Danny,
for that we're not in alignment with. Sustaining a bad relationship doesn't ever help us. And that is very, very true. And that's why, you know, for each of us, we have to kind of assess. I even, Roland, believe it or not, I even try to avoid words like good and bad, because they promote, for myself, they promote judgment, meaning we all judge every day, right? When we label something, it's a judgment,
right?
Positive or negative. But even that idea that sustaining a bad relationship, I go back to, well, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I've been divorced and I'm now remarried. So was that a bad relationship? I believe that that relationship was a necessary part of my story and my path, and learning how to become a compassionate, loving partner that is willing to be humble and that knows how to apologize. I, in my previous marriage, was one of those people that had a hard time apologizing and probably responded with arrogance quite often. Now, it takes two to tango, right? So I don't think that I got to divorce on my own. However, I know that by walking that path, I am a very compassionate, loving partner today. And it's very easy for me to say, I'm sorry. It's very easy for me to say, what can I do differently? That process didn't come easily. It came with a lot of pain. And forgiving myself for getting divorced has been one of my biggest probably challenges or stretches of things that I needed to forgive myself for. And especially because I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and so there was a lot of shame in that decision. So I think,
how can this happen to you, Dawn?
Right, so I think that brings up another point, is that shame or feeling unworthy is one of the biggest painful emotions that blocks forgiveness and blocks acceptance. So working through that shame, releasing that shame, allows us to kind of get out of that stuck place and go ahead and find the purpose. And so that's what, you know, that's one of the personal examples that I have about finding purpose in the pain. Was it painful to get divorced? Hell yes, pardon my language. However, I can look back at that relationship and see the very loving parts of it, and look at my ex-partner and recognize that person's wonderful traits and qualities, and I can see where I contributed to the damage in that relationship, so I can move forward and do it differently. So it took me years to come to that place. So I choose not to think of it as a bad relationship, but as one that did help me grow, but ultimately that I did not stay in.
Yeah, I think what you just said too, right? Because I was one perfectionist. So you try to be a perfect psychotherapist, where you want to be the absolute show off example, right? And then you want to be the absolute perfect wife, the absolute perfect partner. And by you feeling you want to be this, you expect from your partner they are perfect. So, and I think perfectionism is just something what helps you to create a process, because a process needs to be aligned and perfect. But everything what is human related, if it's perfect, it's just pressure. It's just unhappiness, because we humans are not perfect. Thanks God.
Because
that makes
perfectionism comes from shame. It's right. And I relate to what you're saying so much, Dagmar, and I appreciate your vulnerability and sharing with it. Perfectionism is pressure. And it is about trying to live up to usually somebody else's standard that we have adopted for ourselves. And that's also what the Four Agreements discusses, is that we typically, as very young children, accept somebody else's set of standards that we then try to live up to. And that's very, very painful if it's not in agreement with our...
For a long time, live up to.
Yes, yes. And so perfectionism is typically going to always be a path to pain. And it's more about accepting that we are imperfect humans and in an imperfect world, and doing what we can to love and be loved. And that's the best way we can contribute.
Yeah, absolutely. Dawn, we have 5 minutes left, and I know you have point 3.
Yes.
So I don't know if you want to start it.
Yeah.
So because I think that's the most important point.
Okay. So step 3 in forgiveness is we've identified accepting the pain, finding purpose in the pain. And the third step is embracing the purpose of the pain. Because once you embrace the purpose of the pain, it's easy to let go of the pain. We've embraced purpose now. We have something new to hold on to, so we can let go of the thing that's causing pain. And although this may seem like the easiest step, because at this point you've worked through so many hard things, difficult things, I don't even like to call them hard because it's a word that reinforces that this is a difficult process. It's just a new process for most of us. But when we can embrace the purpose and let go of the pain, we're still having to let go of something. And I'm reading this great book right now called Nudge, and it talks a lot about the cognitive wiring, the wiring in our brain and how our brain thinks. And it says very clearly in there that we are risk averse. We do not like to lose or let go of things. And we perceive loss so powerfully that even if we're letting go of something that's caused us pain, it's difficult for us to do. We perceive loss more powerfully than we perceive gain.
Do you know, I think I know why. Should I say it?
Please.
So when you hold on to something, you know what you hold on to, right?
Yes.
I experience humans don't like change.
Correct.
So if I let go of something, what I know, but now suddenly there's a hole and I don't know what I will get, perhaps I think it could be worse. So it takes faith, right? Isn't that what you teach me?
Yes. So that is part of it. And that is really, really important, that it is about, sometimes we get stuck in a rut and it's our comfort zone. And what Nudge, the book Nudge, has reminded me of is, yes, that is a huge part of it, that we get stuck in our comfort zone. And so we need to have faith to take that leap sometimes. But the book also talks about perceived value, and that even when we're shown or demonstrated that the thing that we can exchange has greater value or the same value as the thing we're letting go of, we still tend to not let go. We need a nudge in order to do it. So there are multiple challenges that get in the way of us letting go. And that's one of the things that therapy can help you with, is really identifying those things that are getting in your way of letting go and embracing change. And therapy is not the only one, but it's certainly a helpful one. And it's been a helpful one to me through my process, because a lot of times what our brain wiring, we're working against it when we're creating change. We have neural pathways in our brain that have been reinforced that tell us to do it the way we've been doing it for multiple reasons. And so it's about learning anew and creating literally new neural pathways and being able to be okay in the discomfort of the change.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I just read what Roland wrote. And I don't know if you want to read it loud or if you want to respond to it, but I think that's pretty important too.
Absolutely. Roland wrote that people must believe that things can improve and happiness is possible. And Roland, you know, from your lips to the great energy sources ears, you know, I'm known to say that there's a solution to every problem. And I had a client just this week very, very tearfully say to me that when she called to schedule a session for the very, very first time, that I was the first person that listened to her story and said that change was possible and that she could be okay. And that she was so grateful just for even that initial point of contact that we had, where I believed in her even without having an extensive rapport with her. And that's because I believe, period, that change is possible. Like, there's no question. Change is possible. So thank you so much, Roland, for that addition.
Yeah, and that was an awesome platform. We're already at the end, believe it or not.
It goes so fast.
At the end, and really, like, everybody who listened in live and gave us all these great questions and comments, like Daniel and Roland, thank you so much. Like, I love that, and I will go back after the show and read all of them, because it just, for my left brain, was fast sometimes. So getting it. But Dawn, don't let us miss that you share how somebody can reach you and your website. And also, just that you know, every Monday at 3 p.m. EST, Dawn is coming on live in Plop and shares what's going on, what she experienced, and topics she finds just most important to talk about. But Dawn, just share with us, please, how everybody can reach you.
Absolutely. So please check out my website, dawnwigginstherapy.com. And you can connect with me on social media. If you follow me on Twitter, I will follow you back, and you can get all of the posts and updates of lab shows and video posts, blog posts. There's lots of blog posts that are on similar topics to forgiveness, relationships, and things of the like. I also have, if you are local or even if you're not in South Florida, an on-the-house consult that you can check out on my website, where I offer a free consult to anyone who wants to do psychotherapy with myself. If you're local, I would love to have you here in the office. And if you're not local, we can do video conferencing for psychotherapy. So either way, on the house consult at dawnwigginstherapy.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Thanks for the discussion, for your engagement. It really shows me that this is an important topic, and that there are other like-minded people out there that are interested in really improving the world and making it a better place and growing themselves. And that's just proof positive that change is possible. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And yeah, thank you again for everybody. And listen in next Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern time again. Will be another great lab. And Dawn is writing a blog post about this topic. So don't miss out, and go to her website and check out her latest blog post. When is this one coming?
Probably midweek.
Midweek. Okay. Perfect.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Okay. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.